All right, folks, welcome in to another edition, another episode of College Hockey Southwest Weekly's Long Distance Devils. I got my long distance devil, Paul Hornstein, with me. Paul, hello. How are you? How's been the week?
How you doing, Scott? It's been a very interesting week. I'm getting obsessed with numbers and brackets and picks and all the stuff that I love, and so I actually squeezing in some hockey too. So
The only number you need to be concerned with, my friend, is
one,
three. The
one,
magic number is
one.
three. Okay, we'll get into that later. The magic number is three. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about this weekend with the Sun Devil hockey team. Another great weekend on the road. I said they were going to win at RIT. Everybody said, no, not so fast. RIT is a good team. I said, I know, but there's something different about this hockey team. Had a great visit today with Jacob Wilson. Had a great visit today with Dylan Holman. Had a great visit today with Frank Ferreira. And had a great visit today with Coach Powers. And this hockey team is beyond confident right now. That's my latest observation. They are beyond confident. They are at the point where they think, and dare I say, they know that they're better than a lot of teams.
Well, listen, you want players to be confident. If they weren't confident, you'd worry about them being in the lineup. You want them to have some swagger. You don't want it to be to the point where it's overconfidence, but you want them to have some swagger. You want them to feel like when they walk out on the ice, they can do the job and do it under difficult and different circumstances. Otherwise, don't get them a uniform. Tell them to go sit and watch with the rest of us.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up swagger, the first thing that you said, because I asked Dylan Holman today in our senior series, I said, talk to me a little bit about the difference between the success you had at Spruce Grove and the success you're seeing. I think about that a lot. And he said, I think what we've developed here now is a swagger like we used to have at Spruce Grove. He said, I don't want to say that I was confident, but we'd play 60 games a year up there and we'd only lose 15. So he said, every time we went to the rink, we thought we were going to win. He said, I don't want to be cocky, but we just felt like we were the better team. And he said, for the first time in the 4 years I've been at Arizona State, we go to games now thinking we're the better team and we're going to win.
Well, we've been saying it all year, even though this team has lost 10 games. Of those 10 losses, 8 are games they could have and probably should have won.
Right.
They just didn't, because you're not going to win every game. Maybe the Clarkson game, they were not going to win. And the second game at Omaha, we've talked about it before. They just got beat by the hot goalie that night, and it didn't matter what they did, even though they were the better team on the ice. Those are really the only 2 games where I didn't think they had a shot. And probably one of the Cornell games too. But
yeah.
So you're talking what, 3, maybe 4 out of the 10 losses for the season where they were either A, out of the game, or just weren't going to win for whatever the circumstances were. Even the 2 games they lost to Ohio State, they could have won both of those games.
Oh, absolutely.
They could have won both Penn State games. So they should be confident and they should have some swagger. But there's a difference between confidence and overconfidence. And that's the coach's job, to keep it on the right side of that line and not go over.
Let me tell you a little secret. I don't think Coach would mind me telling this, but I was there again early at practice today and watching him, and he was out there, their little warm-up skates, getting around. All of a sudden, he blows his whistle, and he gets them over to the glass, and everybody skates over there, and his demeanor changed from, hey, guys, how are things, to I'm not happy. Now, I can't repeat some of the things he said, but what I did hear was what I mentioned to him on the Powers play today. I said, you said something to the guys today about attention to detail. And I don't know exactly how this went because I didn't hear everything, but it was something to the effect of, I just gave you guys 2 days off and you were late. And if you're late 1 second, he said, that's not okay with me. So from now on, I don't care if you get 2 days off, if you're on a bye week or not, we show up on time. And I was going like, oh, hello, he's got their attention right now. And then they went out and spent about 45 minutes doing quote unquote drills. But it was amazing that every drill was skating in small area games. They got the message. Enough said.
Well, they got the message, and if you remember back to your history, so to speak, you don't always know what's dramatic license and what's not. But
Right.
I'm pretty sure that Coach Brooks, in his run-up to Lake Placid, was constantly saying the legs feed the wolf, the legs feed the wolf.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that's any different. So you want to play 60 minutes, you're going to have to fight through a lot of downtime. Your legs need to be in game shape.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got Coach Powers in for the 5-minute Powers plan, I'm giving away bits and pieces here of the whole thing, but I think it's important.
It's called self-cross promotion, Scott.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
can do that.
Yeah, I told him that I said, I know you're pretty modest, and I know that you're going to not want me to say this, but I said, I'm starting to tout you for Coach of the Year, and here's why. And he kind of looked at me, and I said, I saw you do something on the ice today that told me how good this program is. And he still looked at me kind of funny, and I said, I saw you coaching details. And I said, a championship team, a championship coach pays attention to details. They pay attention to every detail, crossing every T, dotting every I. And he agreed with me. He said, absolutely. And I said, that's why I think what you've done here is worthy of National Coach of the Year. Well, of course, he shrugged that off like you would expect him to. What's he going to say? But think back, Paul. I mean, this team has won more games this year than they did their first 3 years of existence as NCAA hockey team. And that's no fluke. And the players he's recruited and the student athletes he's recruited, you find me a coach this year that's done a better job, and I'll bow down to him. But there is not one. I can guarantee you there is not a coach that's done a better job.
Well, I don't know how they work these awards. You just like most of the others, there's probably going to be a top 3, and they'll be at this and they'll be at that. And certainly Coach Powers has to be one of those finalists. I'm biased, so I agree with you. I think he should be. This team's got 19 wins this year. I believe that's more than the last 2 years combined.
That's 3 years combined.
Well, I can't remember what they did in the first full D1 year in terms of wins.
Trust me,
last year they had 8, and
the
the first
3
year
and 3.
Did they? I'm not. Was that the hybrid year or the first one? The first 3?
3, 3, 8.
Okay, so you're talking about 19 wins now.
With 4 games to go.
With 4 games to go. So there might be cases where you could put somebody up against the Coach Powers for the Coach of the Year, but you'd have to make a really, really strong case.
And we also visited after that, and this is my last thing I'm going to give away about the Powers play, but we visited about this team, and I said, Coach, you and I have talked all year long, and I think you have the best goaltender in the country, and I know you think you do. I said, we know that you have the leading goal scorer in the country, and I said, you have 19 wins against 10 losses and a tie. And then he said, oh, yeah, don't forget, we also have the number 1 plus-minus player in all of hockey, and we think he's the best defenseman in hockey. So he said, if you have the best goaltender, the leading goal scorer, the best defenseman, you better win.
Yeah, well, 2 of those 3 things I don't think you can dispute. Saying that Brinson Pasnick, you might have others that disagree with that. When you look at some of the guys that they would have to throw in that argument, like Adam Fox and Cal Maker, you're not talking about guys that are slouches. You're talking about top of the top. So you have a legitimate argument. I would also say that Dylan Holman and Anthony Crossan are in the top 20 in the country in plus minus. They're at plus 16, so they're
Yep.
not that far behind Brinson. But this is why this team is where they are.
Absolutely. So let's quickly recap this last weekend at RIT. They come out Friday. Coach said they played very well. Other guys have told me they didn't play all that great. We agreed on one thing though. They could have scored more goals. Coach told me there was 10 grade A chances in his book after watching the tape that they didn't score on. So he said he felt they could have scored more than the 6 that they scored.
Well, listen, they definitely were the better team on Friday, which is not usually the case.
Right.
They usually have a little bit of the blahs on Friday for whatever reason, but this is playoff time.
Yep.
Brinson said to one of the Cronkite kids in a piece I saw on the internet that we felt that we've been in a playoff run now for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he's not wrong. They played pretty well on Friday. They got a lot of scoring from a lot of different people. If you look at the box score, they got 1 goal from the top line, and the rest came from other sources. And when ASU does that, they usually win. So they took advantage of a mismatch in goal. They clearly had the goaltending edge in that Friday game. The RIT was not playing their number 1 goalie because he was still injured. And you have to take advantage of those situations when you have them. Not to say that ASU didn't play well, because obviously when you get that many good scoring chances, and they had them, you've played well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Saturday night, a little tighter as you'd expect. That RIT came out and made some changes to try to stay with them. But when you close the series out, especially on the road, I think that says something about your team, that you can go on the road, win big first game, and then come back and take the other team's best shot and still come away with a win when you have to win. I think that bodes well for a team that can go into the NCAA tournament and do something.
Well, they definitely faced some adversity on Saturday night. First of all, RIT got its number 1 goalie back, and you could see the difference. Yeah. The crowd was definitely into the game. There was no question about it. It was one of the noisier road crowds in an ASU game that I've heard this year, where it wasn't the ASU fans that were dominating the noise. The game got chippy. There is no question about it. Because there's no fighting in college hockey, sometimes things tend to get chippy as the weekend moves along. I'm sure in your time covering various teams that you've covered, you've seen that too.
Yes.
And ASU got down in that game. And in terms of RIT making a push, RIT tied the game on a penalty shot that they received during their power play. So they score on the penalty shot to tie the game at 2, and they're still on the power play. So ASU has to not only survive the momentum from the penalty shot, they have to survive the remaining RIT power play. Right. And about 2 minutes later, when you think things were not, and they weren't really going well at that point. Right. RIT was making a push. They were dominating that segment of the game. ASU wins a face-off, clean face-off win back to Guido Janssens, and he puts in his first goal of the year about 2.5 minutes after RIT ties the game on the penalty shot, and that was the game right there. You could see ASU's confidence came back. They got that mojo going back, a little bit that swagger going back, and for the last part of that game, they were the better team. They got more balanced scoring once again. Johnny Walker got a couple of assists, and they just they once again just got guys all over the place, and once again balanced scoring. So or distributive scoring. I thought Demetrius Kumanzis played his best game in a long time. I think the presence of Jake Clifford on that line No disrespect to the guys that were moved or weren't available. I think that veteran presence on that line made a big difference in that second line in terms of how the weekend went. And they came out with 2 road victories, and it made a big difference in where they stood in terms of playing after Minnesota.
You remember last Tuesday when we talked, or Wednesday, I said, keep an eye on Demetrius Koumantzis because he was working with Alex Hicks before practice on shooting the puck. Yeah, he gained some confidence. He's getting better all the time. And if you think that this team's not going to be exciting when they get a chance to go to Minnesota and play in that big ice, I had a chance to ask some of the guys that today. I asked Jacob Wilson first, and he said, "Oh, I don't like big ice. Too much space." He's a defenseman.
He's
right?
a defenseman. Yeah. Listen, he probably wants to play in the old Boston Gardens, right, where it was like playing on half a sheet.
So then I said, yeah, I understand that. You're a defenseman. That makes sense. But I said, are you excited to see your speedy forwards get a little open ice? And he said, yeah, that's going to be fun. There is a lot of speed in this ASU team that you haven't seen half of how fast they are yet, because when they get time and space, and Coach mentioned that to me too, he said, I think our guys are excited to play on a big ice surface where they have time and space. They enjoy time and space. I'm thinking PJ Morocco. I'm thinking Anthony Croston. I'm thinking Dylan Holman. I'm thinking Jordan Sandu. I'm thinking Demetrius Koumantzis. I think all of those guys are going to really, really perform well in Minnesota. And I think Minnesota is going to have their hands full because they're going to get all 3 lines flying at them. And they're going to be trying to key on Johnny Walker, no doubt. And I think they're going to get burnt by everybody else.
Well,
okay, got ahead
we
of
have
myself.
time for that.
That's the last one.
That's a few weeks. That's a few weeks ahead of time. But I understand what you're saying. It's definitely part of the conversation in these next 4 games. But they have to take care of some other business first.
Absolutely, and that's a week away, so we won't go a whole bunch into AIC. What I do want to talk about, Paul, though, is they're standing right now on the Pairwise. Okay, they're sitting at number 8 in the Pairwise. There's only 4 games left for them to do anything one way or the other. I think we both agree that they can't really move up higher than 8th. There's just too many teams locked into that spot.
I don't think so. Of course, I'm not. I could sit there and I know people that are throwing in every kind of combination, and I wish I had a computer program to figure that out. But I don't think there's any way, unless some teams really go in the tank, and those teams ahead of them are too good, where ASU is going to be able to get much higher than they are. Of course, if you'd have told me at the end of the season going into AIC that they would be 8 in the Pairwise, I'd go get my pen. Where do I sign for that? So let's go.
Exactly.
They're 8th. 8th in the Pairwise.
Here's the flip side of that. They may not be able to move up, but I also believe they can't. I don't think they can fall out of the top 16 no matter what they do. I mean, I think it would just be really, really tough, especially, and here's the thing, the strength of schedule keeps coming back to help these guys. That's why they keep moving up.
It does.
Because they have played some really good teams, and they beat some really good teams, and they've lost to some teams that have continued to play good hockey. Cornell, Clarkson, Minnesota State. Those are teams that they've played really very well with, and those teams have done well. So I don't think at this point that they can slip out of the top 16, but I think they have to get into the 20s and wins in order to solidify that, because there could be a dozen 20-win teams right in the top 16.
Well, the crazy thing is, about a week ago, I just went back and changed the result of one game. Okay, just to see what it would do.
Right.
And I gave them one of those 2 Ohio State games, and that would have had them higher than 8th, and would have just about locked them in, even with these 4 games to go. Now, there seems to be a divergent set of thoughts on this with their standing in the pairwise right now. There are some people that are saying win 2 games and you're definitely in. I'm not of that school. I don't want to play that game. I want 3 wins. I want three wins.
Coming around to my magic number now, are you?
No, no, put words in my mouth. Okay, not putting the magic number still 1. The magic number is going to be 1. The only thing is we're getting a little closer and closer together, which is fine by me. But and I've seen things that have also said, or at least one person had the opinion where they could win 1 of these 4 games and still get in. Now I think that's crazy, but
well, you know. I'm gonna tell you that there are there are 3 people that have told me that they're in, that are pretty knowledgeable sources that have said they're in the tournament. I agree with you. I think they have to get 3 more wins. That's why I made that magic number 3. I think 22 is the magic number. Strictly, they might get in with 20 or 21 because of the fact that of the strength of their schedule and where they played. And, they played 2 6-game road trips almost back to back this season. So that's difficult to do. They're independent. They don't have a conference tournament to win. All of that's going to weigh heavily on the selection committee picking them versus somebody else. But I honestly believe that they're going to finish with 22 or 23 wins, and they're going to get into the tournament. And I don't think they're going to sneak in. I think they're going to be a 3 seed in one of the 4 regionals.
Well, as it stands right now, when you look at people that are picking brackets, they're a 2 seed.
Yeah.
They're not even a 3 seed. They're a 2 seed.
They'll be a 3 seed.
So, okay. I'll
take it.
I'll take it. Once again, where do I sign, right? What you want to do is make yourself upset proof.
Yes. Because
you don't have the conference tournament. And if you look at some of the various conferences and the way they're setting up, take, for example, the NCHC. Okay, right now, North Dakota is in that 5th spot. Okay. That being said, they stay regardless of whether they stay 5 or maybe they move up to 4 and get home ice in that first round. But as it's setting up right now, assuming there's no upsets, North Dakota would have to go through Western Michigan. They would have to go through Denver, Duluth, and St. Cloud. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
That first series is a best of 3. So you're going to have to beat Western or Denver twice on the road if you don't get home ice advantage in the first round.
Yep.
And if they can't survive that gauntlet, certainly you don't expect the teams behind them to be able to survive that gauntlet.
Right.
Okay. Another place you might get an upset is the ECAC because their standings are what they are, but in the pairwise, some of those teams in the middle are right up there, like Harvard is, if I'm not mistaken, 12 or 13 in the pairwise.
Yeah.
So, but their standing is, so now your team's got to, the teams at the bottom have to beat Cornell, Clarkson, Yale, and Harvard.
What about Providence?
Well, that's Hockey East.
Hockey East, sorry, my bad.
No problem. So Yale or Harvard, who are the teams that are on the bubble, are going to have to beat those other 3 teams.
Not happening.
Or at least 2 of those 3 teams. And maybe one of them in a best of 3 on the road to steal a bid from one of the teams in the 12 to 16 spots on the pairwise. Could it happen? Of course it could. Is it likely? No. That's playing a lot of good hockey on the road.
Yeah.
And beating a lot of good teams. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, I know you asked me to pick a selection of 16.
Right.
You pick.
We're going to put that up. We're going to put that up every week, mine and yours, and maybe I've got a wild card that may put his up.
Okay.
And we'll see what happens. But we're going to do that from now on out. Every week we'll pick who we think the 16 teams are in the tournament if the tournament started that day,
Right.
1 through 16.
And if you look at Hockey East, UMass is obviously a lock. By the way, ECAC, I didn't even mention Quinnipiac. So
Yeah.
Yale or Harvard's got to go through Quinnipiac,
Yeah.
Cornell, Clarkson. Are you kidding?
Right.
Lowell is playing very well right now, and they're jumping up into Pairwise, but they're on the bubble right now. Hockey East is a place where you might see an upset and a bid stolen from 12 to 16.
Yeah. And here's the thing that you have to consider as well. These teams aren't done playing yet. They're going to have to play each other, and somebody's going to have to win and somebody's going to have to lose unless they tie every game.
Right.
And I don't think that's happening.
And it's not happening in the conference tournament either.
No. So if ASU goes out and posts that 20, 21, 22 win mark and then can sit back and watch, I think they're just going to sit back and watch teams fall by the wayside. I don't think they're going to sit back and be sweating it out whether we're going to get in or not. And like I said, I've been feeling this since mid-November that series in Minnesota was going to be a series which would either secure their spot in like a 3 seed or get them in the tournament, but get them in as a 4. So I still think it's coming down to that. I think it's going to be a great series. We're hoping to be out there to bring some coverage this way and talk about it. But we're running out of time again as we're tweeting down to 3 minutes left here. So let's leave AIC out until next week so we get a chance to talk about that. But as we sneak into it right now, the buzz around this hockey team continues to grow everywhere except Arizona. And it's sad. It really is. I mean, everywhere around the country, people are talking about Arizona State hockey. And we can't get, other than us and the Cronkite kids, we can't get anything for this team. And it's a sad thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go on the record right now, and I'm going to tell you that the next NCAA champion in a major sport at ASU is going to be the men's hockey team, period.
I could definitely see that. I mean, if they're at this point after only 3 full D1 seasons, the sky is definitely the limit. And I make no bones about it. I want to see every ASU team do well, but this is where my heart really lies. And I want this more than I want to see any of the other teams. And that's no disrespect to the other teams, but I grew up a hockey guy. And over the years that we've known each other, you know that as well. And one of the reasons is why you asked me to do this segment with you. And this is where my heart lies. And I remember a long time ago when I talked about hockey, I got laughed at.
You weren't the only one.
I understand that. I also understood this was the 80s too, but the point is, and they weren't trying to disrespect me. It's just, they didn't grow up in the hockey culture. They didn't grow up in a hockey area. But this would be my choice. If you told me I could pick one, this would be the team.
All right. Well, the big thing on Twitter right now is would you rather? So there you go. That's what everybody's talking about, the old game, would you rather? So Paul Hornstein, would you rather have this ASU team win the championship this year, or would you rather have a new arena at the Arizona State University campus tomorrow?
Now, the only thing is the championship gets me a building anyway. So because
I knew it. That's a teacher in you, analytical, thinking it out.
That's me. You listen. This is why the magic number is 1 and not 3. It's 1.
Goodness. I got 25 seconds left to convert people over to the magic number is 3. It's 1 game at a time. I call you on that. It is 1 game at a time, but you must win 3. Enough said. Have a good night, Paul.
You too, Scott. We'll talk to you soon.